go over things. Okay, we should be recording. All right, awesome. Welcome everybody to our CIA Tech Talk for April 2022. This is the first one of hopefully many more to come. This is something that came about. I don't know if y'all do this, but I use technology quite a bit. I think it's something that is commonplace. But sometimes we can have some conversations about best practices when it comes to technology. And so that's what this forum is kind of dedicated to. But we also think that this is a good avenue for providing information about other exciting updates that can be valuable for our campus community. So that's why we have an assortment of speakers here today to go over some of that information. Rachel Ward from the College of Music later on this morning is going to talk about some of the speech to text features she uses in her work practice. One of the subtitles for this is work smarter, not harder. I'm all about working smarter and not working harder. And so I think it's a great avenue for that. But first, we're going to begin with a conversation with ITS. So there's some exciting updates coming up about our email services and how that's going to work for our students coming in and our students still being with us. So we're going to begin with that conversation. So I have an assortment of people from ITS here today. To talk about things. Megan Del Debbio is here, as well as Andrea Dial, Lori Gorman, and then we also have Bobby Sprinkle. So Bobby is going to, based on the instructions that Megan provided me, is going to be doing some of the discussion today. But we're very excited to have them. Bobby, I did give you co-host options, so you should be able to share your screen. But Bobby, I'll go ahead and let you take the floor.
John, I appreciate it. And thank you so much for having us. And thank you to Megan for helping set this up. So I am going to share my screen. So please feel free to ask questions as we go. If you want to drop one in the chat, Andrea and team will be reviewing that. Or you can just ask me directly and I'd be happy to answer it while we're in progress. Everyone see my screen?
Yes.
All right, so let's get started. So we're here to talk about the 10365 project. And we're going to, it's nice that it's on April Fool's Day, but this is for real. This is happening. It's not a joke. So we're going to be talking about how we are merging our email tenants so that student and employees, faculty, staff, everybody will be into a single email tenant. It's a big job and there's a lot of moving parts with it. I'm going to talk about the dates, the milestones. I'm going to talk about the migration, talk a little bit about preferred/primary email, little other activities, and then some ways that you can help us engage and prepare. And then we'll take questions at the end. So these are the broad dates. As you can see, we actually kicked this off in February of last year. So this has been a long time coming with a lot of work. Starting February 4th of this year, all new accounts that were provisioned are being provisioned in the @fsu.edu email. So this is already started. So if you're interacting with any students or Apple admins that have come on after February 4th, they're going to be with fsu.edu emails. And then the big date that we were joking about earlier is May 4th. May 4th is when all existing students will transition from their my.fsu.edu email to @fsu.edu. That'll happen in the evening of May 4th. We will be migrating all of their information over, all of their Teams is not migrating. OneDrive information will migrate. If they are a part of a team, they'll have to migrate that themselves, and we're giving them instructions about it. So May 4th is the big day to remember. when we are changing all of the students and also implementing the new preferred email process. After that, we've got a lot of cleanup to do. We're going to be communicating with alumni because a lot of alumni don't use their accounts, so we'll be cleaning that up. We've already cleaned up 162,000 inactive student accounts that aren't getting used. So we have almost a year process after May 4th to do a lot of cleanup and finalization of the project. But the big date is still May 4th to remember. So these are some of the things that we've done. Obviously, we've started new account provisioning. We did get permission from the Board of Trustees to add student email to FERPA directory information. We had to do that because in this process, there's no way to stop somebody in this single tenant from emailing a student directly. So we had to make the email address be able to be public. We've updated our email policy that's gone through all of the revisions and approvals except for the presidential cabinet. So HR signed off, legal signed off, registrar signed off. So we think it's obviously it should be approved here in the next couple of weeks. Then the big one is we migrate our student accounts, we standardize preferred email, and then like I said, we'll phase out alumni emails that are unused. And really change the third-party apps to use the correct email. One of the problems with this is a lot of people use their email as their login. So just think about how you log into Netflix. If you use your email, your student email at my.fsu.edu, you're going to have to change that. Well, that's what a student has to do. Unfortunately, we've built a bunch of third-party apps on the backside that do the same thing. So we have to do that translation ourselves for a lot of the applications that we run. So a lot of that will be happening after May 4th. So we are already in migration testing. We're in testing how we move the data, how it'll look, how that will function. On May 4th, we'll be migrating 51,000 student accounts. About 3,000 admitted applicants. That fluctuates a little bit, but give or take, that were admitted prior to that February 4th date. Employees were given until yesterday. They had a month to opt in if they used to be a student, because some people that now have an account in both systems may not want student data showing up in their system from when they were a student 20 years ago. If you are an employee that is a current student, you have no choice. All current students are migrating, but if you were an ex-student, you were given the choice to opt in. We've got a communications plan. I think Sarah was mentioning earlier is very extensive. I'll talk to that a little bit. That started in March, and we do have a support plan. As much as we would like to all go on vacation May 5th, we have a very extensive plan to help people after that transition to make sure that we're here to support them in that change. So this is sort of what's changing in a nutshell. I really like this slide because it shows everything that's happening. So the new emails will look like your FSU ID at fsu.edu. All of your email calendars and contacts are going to be moved so that none of that will be lost. Any OneDrive data that you have will be moved. So any files that you have in OneDrive will be moved to a new account with your new ID. Microsoft Teams data will not move. So if you have students that are members of a team, we've got instructions for how they can download it, create a new team with their new ID and upload their data. But that won't move. We don't have a method of doing that on a bulk scale, so we're not going to be able to do that. So students will no longer be able to access their email after May 4th, but their email will forward for 6 months. So if they had, if they forgot to change an account or they forgot to do something, all of those emails will still forward to them to their new @FSU one. But we do suggest that they update any email addresses they have for any university apps or any private apps that they have, because going forward @FSU is where all official university communications will go. And then of course they should know that their name and contact will be in the FSU directory which is part of that FERPA directory information being made public. Any questions on what's going on for a student, broadly speaking?
Bobby, I just wanted to add something that's not on this slide is that we'll also be putting an out of office message on the mailboxes so that anybody who sends email to those at my addresses will receive an out of office message that tells them that that address has been changed to the at FSU address.
Thank you.
That's awesome. Hey, this is Sarah chiming in. I love this graphic too. Is this going out on social media?
This is currently on the ITS 10365 website.
Okay.
So I don't know if we, Megan, if you think we can do a snapshot of this or something to put out on social media.
We don't currently have this graphic planned for social, but I just put in the chat that we're trying to direct all the social posts that we have are directing students to this page where they can see this and other info and FAQs and stuff like that. I'm also going to drop a link in the chat for a link to our communications kit that'll show you the dates we plan to post on social. So if you want to share any of the content that we're putting out there, you're welcome to create your own too. We have some graphics out there for you to do that. But if you want to share any of the content that we're posting, all those dates will be outlined in the communications kit.
Yeah, I think this would be a good thing for us to put out on the CIA listserv. So we'll work on getting it out. And I think this would be a really easy thing for advisors broadly to understand.
Great. Well, we appreciate any help you can give us on getting the news out there.
And Bobby, can I jump in with another question as well?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you. So AF advisor from the College of Music over in the College of Music. So one of the things that you mentioned was students who use their FSU FSU email, etc., for things like Netflix and all these other things. Having a .edu email address is hugely valuable to them because they use it for things like Prezi and Canva and all these other kind of pseudo academic things that they still use for their classes. So is there any publicity promotion type stuff that's going to students, reminding them, hey, don't forget to check all of these different accounts?
Well, we obviously can't, we don't know what all accounts students have got, but we have lots of information that says, go check your accounts that you're using your email to sign on for. So we do have that in the communications plan. We do have it on the webpage. We do recommend that students try to think about any accounts that they have used their email to sign in for, and they will still have an edu email. It just won't be my.fsu, it'll just be fsu.edu. Right. So they'll be able to have any of those benefits that come with an edu account. But obviously we can't tell what every account everyone's logged into, and so we just tell them, look, you need to go check your account. One of the reasons we're forwarding it for 6 months is we're assuming students will forget some, and they'll get an email, 3 months later that says, hey, it's time to re-register or whatever, and they'll still be able to see that.
Okay, great, thank you. No, that's wonderful. Thanks.
All right. So you need to save any Teams files. Like we said before, we are not going to be able to migrate that. So you need to put those on some personal storage or cloud storage, and then you can recreate or re-upload it after May 4th. But that's the one data piece that we're not going to be able to help migrate for people. So we want to make sure that they know that. After the upgrade, this is another graphic that I think is very, very helpful. You need to set up your new FSU ID at FSU, your new email. For instance, your iPhone, your tablet, anything that's accessing it, you're going to have to change how that's doing it. You'll need to update your Office 365 apps by signing out of them and then re-signing in with your new ID. And then, of course, obviously, we want you to update any contact information, like we said before, Netflix, Instagram, Amazon, anything that you've used that to do. And if you had a mail forward, if you were forwarding your mail anywhere, you need to reset that up as well. So we think this is another good graphic for telling students how to handle some of these steps. Any questions on what we're asking them to do? All right. So
Actually, Bobby, where do they change their forwarding?
that's done inside their email. So because we don't set forwards at a group level, so each individual would have to set their forward. So you would go into whatever client you're using, you know, in Microsoft Outlook, you would set up an automatic forward, for instance, to somewhere else if you wanted to.
Okay, so there's nowhere at the university where you're entering any kind of information for that.
No, because again, we don't set up forwards at the university level or a high level. So these are all personal. So if somebody wanted to forward all their, we don't recommend this, but you wanted to forward it all to a personal email address, you know, you'd have to set that up yourself.
And Sarah, this graphic is actually, again, on that website that Megan's posted a link to. And you can see on step 4, it says update mail forwarding settings. That goes to the knowledge article on how the user can do that, as well as hopefully Bobby will show it later. In the communications kit, there's a PDF for students that tells them, you know, it's a guide, and in there's also a link to that knowledge article, how to set up forwarding, as well as some of these other activities that they'll need to do as far as setting up their accounts and updating their applications.
Great, thanks, Andrea.
Our marketing campaign is the most comprehensive we've ever done. Megan has burned much midnight oil with her team putting this all together. We've got a whole series of emails that are going out to students, faculty, and staff. We're telling faculty what's happening, even though nothing is actually happening to them, so that they can talk to their students about it, staff the same way. That began in March. It will ramp up all the way to May 4th. We're using social media print. I think for the first time ever, we have radio ads. We've got signage around campus, table tents. We've got some tables set up occasionally around campus. We've got flyers, digital signage at the residence halls, dining halls. We've got regular lawn signs, banners, Canvas homepage, MyFAQ portal, the mobile app. We've also partnered with some university partners, you know, like athletics, Student Government Association, et cetera, to try to use it. We've got this communications kit that Megan has mentioned before, and Andrea's mentioned. You can use that to get information, PDFs for handing out, or things that you may want to post on your website. So we would really appreciate any help that you can give us on spreading the word, because despite the fact that this is the most extensive campaign we've ever done, I'm still sure there's going to be a student on May 5th that goes, hey, what happened to my email? I didn't know anything was going on. So the more we can reach this way, the better. Obviously, we'll expect those people to call the help desk, and we'll have people set up to answer those questions. But we would like to limit what that looks like. So if you can help us spread the word, we'd appreciate it. So we are also changing preferred email. We're changing it to primary email in the first place. This is how we use an automatic hierarchy to find which email to send to people, because a lot of people have multiple email addresses on our system. It's no longer going to be able to get set by a user. And so we're doing some cleanup around that. We're removing personal email addresses from some types. We're removing business email addresses from some other types. And so it's going to be all cleaned up to be your personal address goes in a couple of personal types of email, and then your business ones, you know, your FSU, EDU ones go into Bizen and Camp. So that allows us much cleaner way of delivering large scale emails. It allows us a much cleaner way of managing who is where and who's using personal emails for what. So we're developing that communications plan. It's being finalized and should start rolling out this month. Any questions on preferred versus primary email? The big difference for the users is the users won't be able to set it anymore. We're gonna manage that. they'll still be able to have a personal email address. They'll just have to go into like their home setting and set it. They won't be setting their own preferred email flag. Okay. Obviously, we've got a complete president's cabinet for email policy. The alumni and third-party application analysis is going to be ongoing from now on. Like I said, alumni is phasing out. We are no longer going to have email for life after this rolls out. So alumni will gradually phase out through May 2025. And we will institute a system where if somebody does not use an account after they graduate or after they retire for a year, we'll send them an email that says, hey, do you want to still keep this account? And if not, it'll go away. So no more email for life. That's going to phase out through May 2025. And we've got to do a lot of updating of third-party applications. How can you help us out? We've got a website, its.fsu.edu/1-0365. That has a wealth of information. You can go to it and click, I'm a student, how does this affect me? I'm a staff member, how does this affect me? I'm a retiree, how does this affect me? So I'm an employee. So there's a lot of information there. All of these graphics are there. A lot of other information is there. You can download the toolkit, communications kit. Megan's got that link in the chat as well. We've got a top 10 tips. We've got a guide that you can use. All of that is linked in here. So any support that you can give us for getting that information out, again, we'd appreciate. We are hiring extra staff to man the help desk. So we envision that there will still be people to call around that transition time. So we'll be ready for that. We also think, because that's between semesters, which is the only time we can effectively do this, that there will be some students that don't realize this has happened until they show back up in the fall. So we will have extra assistance set up in the fall as well, so that when a student comes back from their spring, their summer, and go, hey, what happened to my email? We'll be able to help them there as well. Here is the website one more time. Any questions that you guys have? It's a lot going on. It's a big change for the students. You guys are the sort of direct face with the interaction with the students. So if you hear questions or issues or have concerns, we'd love to know what those are. Kimberly, I think your hand's up. Or
Unmute button, sorry about that. Good morning, Bobby, good to see you as always. So my understanding is that students will have the ability to contact employees basically via Teams chat once this migration happens, correct?
That is correct. One of the big reasons for doing this is that it allows collaboration between faculty and students. So one of the big complaints that we have gotten is that students send an email to the wrong email address for their professor, or that we cannot use, for instance, any Teams integration with Canvas because we have two different tenants. So yes, they will be able to chat in a Teams setting with faculty members going forward.
Okay, so coming from the advising staff, administrative assistant director lens, there is a potential for this. I think it's a good thing overall, for sure, but there is a potential of this to become overwhelming. I think if students start using this, I don't know if they will or not. And I'm wondering if there is any mechanism where you office hours or something on there. I mean, I don't know what I'm asking exactly, except to say, if all of a sudden, all the students in, a department that has hundreds of students, they realize they can do this. And so they think they can get like an instant answer, which we try to answer, of course, everything as quickly as possible. But as we know, the volume is, certain times of the semester. And I guess I'm trying to figure out if you have any suggestions or thoughts about how to manage that, or if anybody's thought about that.
Sure, we have thought about that. And so before we kick this off, and one of the big things we did was a deep dive on FERPA student directory information, because we were trying to figure out what this looked like. And so we went around looking, and it turns out that out of 133 or 32 universities we looked at, only 14 don't have this as public. And so then we did a little bit deeper dive, and an enormous amount of those are all on a single tenant. So we started calling some, going, what do you wish you weren't on a single tenant? Do you wish that this wasn't existing? And these were really non-issues. So this was raised a couple of times. People have asked that we don't want to get overwhelmed with students. It does not appear that this happens on any large scale. That's not to say that individual students don't obviously reach out and cannot, quote unquote, pester with chats a faculty member, but it does not appear to be a large, overwhelming issue in other universities that we've talked to. And the other thing is, you can set up office hours, right? So Teams has the ability to have sort of a red, yellow, green light system. And so if you're like in a meeting, it'll show red and that you're not available. If you are, using your machine and you don't have a meeting set up, it'll show you as green. And you can do not disturb, Sarah just sent me too. So there are ways, Kimberly, to help manage that. But like I said, again, experience is usually a good guide, and we have not seen other universities complaining that this is a huge issue.
Okay, thank you very much. Several people have mentioned concerns to me about that, and I thought I would ask since I have access to you today. So thank you so much, and good luck with everything for sure.
Thank you.
Actually, this
Venus.
might be a really good discussion for us to have at CIA or CAD. I mean, to some degree, it might be about expectation setting and making that clear. And I think going into orientation, we probably aren't going to share that as a primary way of people to get in touch with their advisors, unless there were some offices that did like it, then they could choose to let their students know about it. But yeah, I think some good discussions probably should take place about this in the future.
Venus, you got a hand up?
Yeah, I know you had touched on it a little bit in your presentation about like what's going to happen to students who also have staff emails and how you guys are going to forward information that was currently being sent once you guys switched over. But what happens to all the information that is currently in our student emails that switches over? And then on top of that, like I have both a student email and a faculty email, and my faculty email is my first initial and my last name. Will that be changing since we're changing over to like our FSU ID at fsu.edu? So like what happens to students who are like grandfathered into that?
Sure, good questions. So if you are a current employee and a current student, your email is migrated. And what it will do is it will migrate into a folder in your email. So you're not just going to suddenly have a dump of emails in your inbox. We're creating a folder in your inbox, and all of your student emails will go into that folder. I don't remember, Andre, what the title of that folder was. Can you say what we settled on?
Yes, it's going to be my FSU_email.
So, that now your contacts in calendaring is just going to merge into your system, right? So that's going to merge, but we didn't want 10,000 emails suddenly dropping into the account. So we are doing that. So a folder will be created, and then everything else will be forwarded. And so after that, all your email will just arrive as normal in your inbox. We do have a lot of information on how you can set rules on your inbox to move emails to a folder if you wanted to. So if you had emails coming in that were being forwarded from @my.fsu.edu or something like that, you can move those around. So we do have some information on how people that are employees and students can manage their email going forward. But generally speaking, from May 4th on, all your email will just arrive into a single email, whether it's student or employee. Does that answer all your questions?
It answered, yeah. And then just like our emails changing? So since like we use our FSU ID, will that, like, how does that work?
So if you're a student, you're going to have is there an appendix on this? There isn't. So So your FSU, if you're a student, you're going to have fsuid@fsu.edu be your email address. If you're an employee, believe it or not, you're gonna have the same thing, but you'll also have an alias, so whatever, if you have like mine is rsprinkle@fsu.edu. So I'm gonna retain the rsprinkle@fsu.edu. That's not going away. It still is gonna be used as an employee. So both email addresses, if you're an employee or a student, are gonna dump into the same email again, if that makes sense. I think I said that right, Andrea?
You did.
These are great questions, and ones that we think, student employees are going to ask. So please, anything that pops up, we'd love to try to answer it. Like I've always said, we'd prefer to have that really hard question now than on May 4th. We want to know what the issues are, early, so we can try to address them, get an FAQ built, or give people information about how to handle it.
Other questions for the ITS team? All right. Well, seeing that, I greatly appreciate y'all coming in and chat with us. We are recording this session, so this will be distributed through our CIA listserv, so they can get caught up on the conversation that we had today. If y'all have anything else going on as far as information sessions, feel free to send that my way too, and we can definitely get the word out about those. Really appreciate it.
We appreciate you guys having us. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right.
You guys have a good day.
You. All right, so we're going to go ahead and move into our next conversation. Rachel Ward is one of our advising first advisors in the College of Music. She has some fascinating information to share about ways that she uses talk to text technology. There's a lot of T's, talk to text. That technology in her practice. So Rachel, go ahead and give the floor to you. You should be able to share your screen, do all that kind of stuff.
Well, good morning, everyone. I am going to share my screen in just a second, period, new paragraph. In just a moment, you're going to see that I am dictating currently into a Word document that I have just to the side of my screen, period, new paragraph. You might be interested to know that this will save you quite a bit of time in writing emails, in writing notes, maybe in EAB, as well as writing your own papers for classes and getting ready for meetings, period, new paragraph. So everything that I've just said a few minutes ago, you can see here is developing in the Word document that I have here, period, new paragraph. It does take a little bit of thought to think about the punctuation, which normally we don't have to think about. However, it is also very helpful because most people only type between 50 and 75 words per minute, period, new paragraph. If you are one of those people who is more hunt and peck, this is going to be incredibly more helpful for you as well, period. I have been using the talk to text, basically the voice dictation feature in Word, which is also available in your email. So there are a number of pros to this. There are a handful of cons as well, as you might imagine. Like I said, most people, professional typists, people working in an office setting, typically only typically only type somewhere between 50 to maybe 75 or 80 words per minute. That doesn't include, that's their success rate. That doesn't include backspace, 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 proofreading, that sort of thing. Whereas most people actually speak 200 to 300 words per minute, faster if you're nervous. So there's a number of things that I use this for. Again, notes in EAB. Now, it's important to know about this in particular. When we pull up those notes reports, I use this all the time as an advisor. There's no voice dictation that's in that window, right? So when I use this for those notes, those student reports with a student meeting, I will actually have a Word document next to me, and I'm not dictating the whole time that I'm in the meeting. That is an option if you wanted to do that. Rather than after I've concluded the meeting with my student, I will then voice dictate the notes that I want to copy and paste, and then I will just put them into the EAB notes, the reports, whatever, something like that. Let me see. As you can see from this little demonstration, it is pretty accurate when it comes to things like new paragraph. It is pretty accurate when it comes to things like comma, period, etc. It's not so good when it comes to things that are a little more fancy punctuation, colon, semicolon. I haven't tried hyphen yet. I will say in the amount of time that I've been using this, I'm discovering more things that it will do. There's a few little things that I've noticed that are a little challenging. If I were to say something, et cetera, Dr. Hunt or Dr. Hammond or, whoever, frequently it will write out the word doctor rather than the abbreviation. Or it'll spell out the word versus or Mrs. or something of that nature rather than the abbreviation. So when you're using this feature, it still needs to be proofread. I don't just copy and paste the whole thing. But in comparison to typing 50 to 80 words per minute versus speaking at 200 to 300 words per minute, this is something that is still going to save you time, even if you have to go through and proofread, make some adjustments, that sort of thing. I really wish that I had discovered this while I was taking a particularly writing heavy grad class a year and a half ago. That would have saved so much time and a lot of stress and anxiety. I did not discover this. I don't know, for most of you, the dictate option, and that's all I've done, is just select the dictate option and it automatically picks up what I'm saying, period, new paragraph. Is that not the coolest thing ever? So that's a default. That's a default in my system, in my Microsoft products. This also includes email directly. I'm going to pull this over. And there's your little dictate button. So when it comes to making customized changes, if this is not a default for you, I am not good at customizing my ribbon. I have to follow a tutorial every time, but it is under the voice or the dictation category. So it shouldn't be too difficult for you to find. Let me see, what else do I have here? Basic punctuation, basic misinterpretations, those kinds of things. The other thing that I've noticed is when I have Zoom meetings, virtual meetings, about half the time, because I wanted to test this while the ITS folks were speaking, I actually had my dictation feature on. And let me see. And I wanted to see if the mic was going to pick up. So I was quiet, but the mic was still picking up what was coming out of the speakers. And I wanted to see if that was going to start translating here. Is that going to automatically pick up what my students are saying in a virtual setting? It does not. I think that might be a result of the nature of the microphone that I have. So with my camera here, hello, it has a built-in mic. I have bought for myself a separate, what's called a cardioid mic. The pickup pattern is basically in the shape of a heart with the center of the heart being at the back. So that's where it does not pick up. So it picks up everything on the front. I think that's why it's not picking up my speakers, which are behind it. I I have used this with the built-in mic in my camera, and it also works just fine. Let me see. Questions. That's really all I had today. Okay, let's see if I can open up the chat. Good. I'm so glad, Jim. Yeah, me as well. Years ago when I was working for a temp agency, and they have you go through all these different, assessments to see what your skills are and those kinds of things, placement purposes and all of that. They did a typing assessment. My typing accuracy is about 70 words per minute, and I still prefer this. Because even with the proofreading and needing to go back and put in paragraphs or indentations or change the general formatting, whatever, it's still faster to speak and then make adjustments rather than type, backspace, type, and all of that. So Delilah asked, what tasks do you find this tool to be most helpful? I use it a lot for email. I really use it a lot for email. I use a lot of templates anyway. Those of us who go to these, tech talk kind of meetings and presentations, you're probably familiar with rules, as Bobby mentioned earlier, as well as templates. I do use templates a lot. But I use this a lot for email, especially if there's a student email where I can answer it very quickly as if we were having a conversation, but I don't necessarily have a template for it. And it's not a common enough question that I want to create a template for it. I've discovered over the years that I am much better at conversations than I am at presentations. So I try to make any presentation I have more like a conversation. It's interesting to do through a little green box, but hey, we've all had some practice at that. But I do use it a lot for email, especially during something like walk-in hours where it is one student after another. I have a maximum of, maybe an average, I should say, of maybe 7 to 10 minutes with each student. Usually they've already created their schedule. They just want me to review things. Hey, switch this around. Let's take that in a different semester, whatever. I would spend just as much time trying to type up those notes as actually meeting with the student. So immediately I can cut down the time that I have with a student, especially during walk-in hours. If I'm able to dictate the notes to them, I can see more people, and not only that, but the quality of time that I have with them is better. I can ask them how's life outside of class, because I know that I'm saving that time on the front end by doing the voice dictation. So I use that a lot just for my notes. And again, I will have this up frequently along with my email, along with Navigate, along with Student Central, and it's over on my other screen here right next to my email usually. So this is kind of weirding me out to have it on this screen. But that's probably the most frequent things that I use it for, directly into email and then notes and the EAB reports. But I've used it for a few other things as well. And I plan on using it for my grad classes. So other questions about this, or let me ask you this. Has anyone discovered this on their own and thought, I wonder if that actually works? Okay, has anyone else used this just on their own at all? Okay, so I am not an expert on this by any means. Like I said, I'm consistently discovering new things about it. I haven't tried the word hyphen to see if that will actually create a hyphen, but I would love to find out if you guys have discovered new things about it in the time that you get to practice and use it if you'd like. But that's all I have for today. So I hope this is time saving and stress saving and helpful to you.
Rachel, this was fascinating.
Good. I'm so glad.
I share your same sentiment about emails, and I feel like I spend just as much time typing them up as I do with the conversation. And so having this, I think, could be helpful. I am overwhelmed by how many things are going to be easier I'm able to kind of utilize it. Like it's really terrific. One question I did have, I know in my particular practice, I will a lot of times use emails so that way, the student gets a documentation of our conversation. I'll take it, put it into the notes and reports in Campus Connect. But also numbers and recommendations for courses in that. So that's 3-letter prefix and then 4 numbers. Is there a practical or a best practice that you maybe have come upon for something like that?
Let me see. Let me go over here. New paragraph. John Conway, that's a great question, period. I wonder if we were to say something like MUE 4392, if that would actually work pretty well, period.
Share your screen.
Whoops.
Create new paragraph.
Okay, so there's what I just put. I just said the
Okay.
word oops, and it picked up as left, which is interesting. I wonder if we were to say something like MUE 4392. That's actually pretty accurate. I'm
Yeah.
surprised. I've just learned something new. If that would actually work pretty well.
Yeah, that was because I was wondering. Yeah, it is close enough. I can go in and take that little space out.
If you maybe
Uh,
say like the prefix, so like MUE and then space 4392, it might do it correctly.
Okay, let's try that. New paragraph. MUE space 4392, period. A lot closer. But the other thing that you could do, and again, I use this all the time. So on my PC, let me see, my keyboard's down here. Wireless people, you'll never go back. So hitting Control F, right? I can use the find navigation and find and replace, if that makes more sense to you. See, this is a whole new world, people. And look up the word space and replace with just a space. Also, if you did not know that find and replace is fantastic, like you've misspelled someone's name several times in a report, this is a great way to go back and fix that. Happens all the time. So, but that's a great thought, Venus. I hadn't thought of that. So the other thing is when you're done with this feature, you hit the little X and it's like it never happened and no one is the wiser. I am noticing that there are some spaces in between words and commas, which I think is interesting. I'm not sure why it's doing that. I also am not aware if there's, again, we're in this learning experience together. I'm not sure if there's a way to train this particular system to your speaking. I have discovered there's a few ways to delete or backspace or something like that. Sometimes it will write the word delete or backspace, and sometimes it actually erases the previous word. So like I said, with some voice dictation software, which I have also used in the past, not in this context, but prior employment positions, I have used Dragon Naturally Speaking, and that's a whole separate program, right? A lot of us are familiar with that. That does go through about 3 or 4 paragraphs of a fairy tale or a story or the Gettysburg Address or something of that nature in order to train the system. It trains the program to your voice, your accent, things that you prefer. And that program will actually ask you, when you want to delete the previous word, what do you want to say? And it asks you to about backspace or delete or whatever. So that is not part of this. It might be possible to train this that way. I have not yet discovered such a thing. But anyway. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That was really, really awesome. Any other questions for Rachel? I'm going to write you a thank you note in the voice to text feature, and then I'll send it your way.
This is awesome. Thanks, Rachel.
All right, cool. So I was gonna talk about, I was gonna spend a few minutes talking about the updates to Campus Connect campaigns. I had a whole 3-hour block yesterday to review the updates and share those with you. That 3-hour block was from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. yesterday. So I don't know if anybody was here yesterday. I have not had a chance to prepare that. But be on the lookout for some of that information coming up soon. If anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out to me. If you are ever interested in sharing tech systems and technology that makes your lives easier as advisors or student support professionals, feel free to reach out to me. In the CIA dispatch, I include a link to a Qualtrics survey. It is called the Tech Talk Topic Tabulator. A lot of T's. Feel free to submit an idea and we'll reach out and schedule you for one of our upcoming sessions. Other than that, I think we should be all set and good to go. Thank you so much, and y'all have a great rest of your Friday.